Cecilia, how are you?
Good.
If you go through, you're heading south on 41.
How you doing, sir?
You're gonna go through Falls City, and then you go up a little bit of a hill, and you go straight curve. It's on the right. It's the only large residential subdivision on the
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
It's about
I have your.
It's already.
half a mile past the intersection of Falls City.
You wanted to
So
send
we
it.
did, can I get it today? Because I got to, it has to be in the middle tomorrow, or I don't leave for 20 days. Who signs it?
Denise Lee, Steve Howard, and then
They're all be here, right?
I don't know his schedule because there's another.
Pretty much the same meeting we had last week, except for Turnerwood.
Yeah, he's gonna be.
Yeah,
here,
and I
but
think
just
this is
don't know.
gonna
If I catch him, like,
Yeah.
he sometimes usually he
Main reason because
got
he
the
asked for a
appointment.
special.
Yeah.
So if I catch him, because I was supposed to ask him to sign it earlier.
Yeah, let's wait, because his deadline is what, tomorrow?
They'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Once
said
it's
on or
signed,
before
I
the
can
8th,
go
so I
get
think
you a
the
copy.
deadline
Yeah,
is today.
okay, yeah, it's just, that was the whole point of this, so we could do it, and then I get
20
20
days.
days. 'Cause I think it's 20, is it 20 days, Jeff?
Actually, it's 15.
days.
Oh, it's only 15?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then we're good.
Yeah.
If I get it Monday, then we're fine.
Because I send the purchase certificate and then the following day you have it right away.
Yeah, well, then you can just email it to me Monday or something.
I'll send them email and I'll send it by mail as well, so
Yeah.
you can have it.
Yeah, if Monday, then that's fine, because that'll give me the 15 days. I thought
Yeah,
it was
usually I finished everything the same day.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Nice tie, nice tie.
How are you doing? Had to come from Inverness. I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it.
Want a shirt with a collar with it.
Our old county administrator, the one who retired.
Randy?
Randy Oliver. And he died like 9 days after he moved. Was he terminal?
No.
Doing okay?
By surprise, unexpected.
County line now.
No, I was in Inverness
Married.
for a meeting. Kind of got tied up there, and then was jet setting here. And then I had 3 other calls I had to take to get here. So I need a helicopter. I said, that's what I need.
And
Yep.
that's a hard time.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
need a helicopter.
So, it's, very sad. I was good friends with him. I mean, it was a shock to me. It's just- Okay, it's, can we start without Denise here or some representative?
I think so. I think we just go. I guess. Yep.
We're okay to proceed?
I think just proceed.
All right, so it's 1 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and open up the meeting for the Citrus County Water and Wastewater Authority. And I'd like to open up with a reflection of why we're here. We're really here to represent fairness among all citizens within Citrus County. That includes fairness to the ratepayers, or customers as we call it, in terms of the finances and service and quality of service, but also in fairness to also the utilities that provide the service in terms of their financial compensation and understanding some of the problems that they're issued and their cost in providing a good service to the community. And finally, we're here to make sure that those of us on the board and support staff are fair on both sides of the overall citizens, including the companies in Citrus County. I'd like to open up the meeting and stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to express my appreciation to the board members and also the county staff for allowing this special meeting or meeting. I wasn't allowed to use the word special. It's
Additional meeting.
Additional meeting. Additional meeting due to some constraints that Terrawood Utilities had in getting their rate increase approved. And this is going to be a fairly short meeting. I don't want it to last very long. The main issue is the Terrawood Utilities. I'd like to have a roll call at this point in time. Cecilia?
This is an additional meeting for Water and Wastewater Authority, February 8, 2024. In attendance, Chairman Bob Rittenmeller,
Present.
Vice Chair Robert Haber,
Here.
Authority Board Charles Moore, and
Present.
Authority Board Richard Matterson.
Here.
Interim Executive Director Steve Howard. And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is the approval on the agenda. Before we approve it, I'd like to ask Administrator Steve Howard if there's any adds or deletions to the agenda.
There are no additions or deletions.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion so moved.
And second, please.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. At this point in time, we're going to have it open to the public, but I would like to ask that if this is specifically related to Terrawood, there will be another opportunity to speak. But if anyone has any issues excluding Terrawood Utilities, now's your opportunity to speak. Second call. Anyone like to speak at this point in time? Okay, we're going to close to the public. We have the minutes from the last meeting. This is a little bit out of order because normally, I guess, since this is an additional meeting, we still should go through this process, but all of the board members should have had a copy of the prior minutes and should have read those minutes. Is there any discussion or corrections by any of the board members? No corrections or additions? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes on item C1?
So moved.
And I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to go to item D1 at this point in time. This is items requiring actions by the authority. It has to do with Terrawood Utilities. And this is a staff-assisted rate case, otherwise known as an SARC. I'll read in essence what this is about, and then I will we'll open it up for discussion. Approve and authorize the chairman to sign Final Order 24-03, approving the staff-assisted rate case, SARC, for Terrawood Utilities whose rate adjustment would increase 21.7% for water and 2.3% for sewer. That would reflect typical residential bill increase of $11.01 for water and $1.38 for sewer. The average monthly bill would increase from $113.81 to $126.19. That's the essence of this hearing today, and I'd like to open it up to the public for discussion. Anyone would like to make any comments on this? Okay, I'll open it up to the board for any questions.
I just had a question. Since I'm new to the area, and last week I mentioned, or a few days ago I mentioned my experience with the dump where it went from 70 to 82 to 160 in 2 years. I'm just wondering how long since the last increase for these folks here at Terrawood?
2017.
Okay. And at that time, what do you remember the percentage about? Just spitballing. You don't have to.
I don't have that information.
Could you
right
identify
here.
yourself, sir, please? Identify
My name is
yourself.
Gary Morse, and I represent Terrawood Utilities as their rate consultant and have been doing their work for about 10 years now. But 2017 was the last increase before this board.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I have none.
Okay. Well, I've I spent some time reading through this, and for the benefit of the new board members, and also for my own personal benefit, if I make a mistake, I'm going to ask Mr. Chuck Howard to make any corrections on what I go through. I'm going to go through a high-level summary of my understanding of the essence of how we get to this rate increase. And this is mainly for the benefit of the board, but the other ones can understand this as well. I'm not an expert at this, but I think if you study it long enough, the essences should be here. And I would ask Chuck, you jump in if I make a mistake here, please, Chuck. So for those of you who have the application for this staff assisted rate case, I want you to look at the very bottom right of each page, and it's going to give you the page number of 104, and that'll be our main reference. So basically, what a rate case does is it creates a test year. And typically in this test year, it's the prior year, it's 2023. Now, what you need a test year for is so that you can compare that year to what is the new request. And when you compare it against the test year, then you can do calculations such as percent increase, for example. If you didn't have a test year basis, you can't calculate the percent increase and the impact on the community. So that's one of the reasons for a test year. But there's a lot of other secondary readings. Let me get to the correct part here. So I want the members of the board to go to page 28 of 104. You can go there. And on the upper left of the 2804, and I'm going to read this to those of you who don't have this with you, it's a summary of the test year. And basically what we're looking at is the summary numbers, and the billing for 2023 in the test year was $57,597 for water and $66,463 for sewer. So those are two important numbers. Those numbers will be used for the basis of comparison. On page 29, we're still in the test year, we can see that the number of actual bills sent out to customers for water was 1,044 and sewer was 1,032. And here's an important one. How many thousands of gallons were billed? That's the actual gallonage that was sold, not the total number of water pulled, for example, from the wells, but the total number of gallons that were sold. That's 1,919 thousands.
1 million.
So it's a million, it's over a million. And sewer was exactly the same. You might say, well, why is sewer exactly the same? Well, basically there's a assumption that whatever you pull in from the faucet, it goes down the drain, which ultimately ends up in the sewer. It's probably not the most accurate thing, but it's pretty close. And then it gives you the current revenue at the current rates was $55,946, and then for water and $63,146 for sewer. So those are critical numbers for the test year. And everything we're going to do after that is compared to the test year to get those, for example, percentages and increases. Now, if you go to page 30, this is the net operating cost, and what it does is it takes 2023, the test year, and it also has a column next to it is the pro forma of 2024. So a pro forma of 2024 is what would have occurred if we didn't have a rate increase based upon what the parameters were of 2023. And probably the most important one in all of this is on line 19. The pro forma of 2024 was $49,250 for water. Now, let's just hold that number in mind. But if there was no allowable rate increase in 2024 for Terrawood Utilities, they had the same rate, but they had, for example, increased operating cost, Terrawood would have experienced a 3.19% loss. That's an important number, meaning if we don't do anything, we're going to be forcing Terrawood into a loss in 2024. That's for water, and another 1.4% on the wastewater side. Basically, in terms of numbers, there would have been about a $2,000 loss on the water side if we did nothing and they send at the same rates. So there in itself is a basis for considering an increase based upon, we don't really wish to see companies operating a loss unless they've done something that was of their own doing. So I'm going to ask you to go to page 32 now, and let's take a look at the 2024. This is a requirement. So this is the page where Terrywood Utilities is saying, this is what we require to make a just profit and to continue operating at the same service level. And the first thing we did is that we look at what is their actual calculated maintenance and operation expenses for 2024. It's $49,250. If you work down the column, you'll see all of their totals for each one of the major categories, and the total amount of money that Terrywood is asking for, the total amount of money required just for pure revenue was $69,872. I'm just going to do the water side. So they're saying that in order to keep status quo, in order to keep the same profit margins, in order to keep the same service level and quality, based upon their increased operating costs, et cetera, they're going to require $69,872. The next one, it falls down to an adjustment of that $69,872 is that they need it's called the net revenue required from retail customers. It's grossed up based upon the regulatory assessment fees. However, there is a deduction for any revenue from service availability. Service availability, you might want to look at it this way. They've built a plant that's capable of doing so much water production, but they don't sell it all. So because they can't sell it, they can't look at it as sold to customers. So they subtract it out. So it comes back to an adjusted amount of $67,555. However, if you take a look at the annualized revenue from the current rates, meaning if we didn't change, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Just one correction, the service availability. Okay, they have lines running in front of a bunch of empty lots. Each one of those lots, there's a conglomerate that basically, wants to sell those lots, but because the pipe is there, because the service is there when they decide to hook up. That's what the service availability is, to maintain that system so it's ready, whenever they're ready to hook up.
But there's no income from that, though, is there?
No, there's an income, but it's not a set guaranteed income.
Okay.
Because they're getting so much every month, which is a stipend compared to everything else. But if somebody hooks up, that goes from being a service availability fee to a full account.
To a full account.
With all those. So you have no guarantee that next year you're going to have the exact same amount of customers, because those lots might hook up and develop. Because there's no guarantee on it, you have to take those out.
You have to subtract it out. Okay, good.
That's what's on line 7.
John, let me just finish and I'll let you say something, unless it's
It's pertaining to the
pertaining to
service
this. Okay,
availability. Yeah.
good. Identify yourself.
John Thrumpson, Terrywood Utilities. The service availability fee is paid by the developer. He gets sent a bill every month for a specific amount for sewer and a specific amount for water. So if we didn't have that, or we didn't implement that, that would go on the ratepayers over and above.
They would.
So it actually saves them. It's about $900 a month, I think, is what it's down to now. But if we didn't have that, that would be built into the rates as well.
So if you left it in there, it'd almost be a double charge then, basically.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, so you
so
have to
you're
back it
adjusting
out.
it, okay.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So what we come back to here is we have the revenue required, that's on line 8. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at the annualized revenue at the current rates, meaning if we did nothing, the difference is, and this is the big number, the difference between if we did nothing versus what we really need is an additional $12,156. If you take that and you do that as a percentage, that's where you get the 21.7%. And the 21.7% is what probably your customers are going to look at. They're going to look at two things. They're going to look at how much my bill has my bill gone up, and what's the percent increase. Now, 21.7% to some might seem like a very big jump, but keep in mind that Terrawood has been quite a while since they've asked for a rate increase as well. So if that's presented to the customers, it might be a little bit easier to understand. I could go on with some more analysis on this, but basically I wanted the board to understand how we got to these calculations, and hopefully it was projected clear enough that I got through it. Chuck, I'm going to give it to you. Is there anything you wish to add to this, to how we got these numbers?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory in there, but I had mentioned in there, if you look at the actual report, I believe it was the first paragraph and several others, I had mentioned that there, if you, and I think I said which exhibit in there to look at.
Yeah, there's a bunch of detailed P&L reports here and financial analysis.
Well,
I didn't want to go through all of this, but it's a lot.
okay, in there, you already mentioned that they billed out 1,919,000 gallons.
Yeah.
But they treated 2.4 million gallons of sewer.
I&I? I&I has the influx and infiltration that, like rainwater coming into the system or people connected to downspouts, that's our cracks in the pipe infiltrating it in.
They've fixed most of the I&I, but that's a 990,000 gallon difference between what you pumped out of the ground and what was treated in the sewer plant. That looks like a meter problem to me.
It could be a meter problem, or it could be true I&I. Well, I think John is asking to change some meters out, though, as part of it. So, you want to comment on this, John?
What we noticed in doing all these analysis and all this stuff is that when we actually take the water from the wells and then we sell it and then we process it in the sewer plant, each one of these is metered. And what we're seeing is, and SwiftMud has also noticed, because we have to justify our water losses to SwiftMud every year in an annual report as well. And we're noticing that we're pumping more water and we're treating more water than we're actually selling. So that's telling us that we're having slow meter reads. We're not reading, the meters aren't reading as fast as we're pumping and as much as at the two other ends of it. So they recommended to us, and they're not going to give us letters or anything like that, but they said this is where you need to look. This is where we would start. So what we've done is in the staff-assisted rate case, you'll see that we're going to start a meter replacement program sometime towards the end of this year and try and phase in over the next 3 years to replace the meters to try and capture that lost, what they call lost water. That's why you see it higher on the revenue side for the water than on the wastewater, because we're not metering as much to be able to collect that revenue, so we're having to raise it because we're losing it. You see what I'm saying? So once we put the new meters in the ground, everything should level itself back out again.
And you think that's going to account for the million gallon loss?
It's going to account for a majority of it, I really believe. I mean, these meters are manual reads. They're 25, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where everybody's pointing us to that direction. The consultant, Chuck, SwiftMud, they're all saying, that's where we need to go. So part of the increase is for those meters on the water side too.
And you're only going to do 25, is that?
Yeah,
Is that
it's
correct?
it's
25.
expensive.
They're
you
expensive
know.
meters.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're looking at, yeah, Exhibit 7, like you
Yeah,
said.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, doing 25 a year at, $750 is what a meter replacement is, time you buy the meter and the plumber and all the stuff. I mean,
Sure.
you do the math, that's $15,000 a year that's coming out of the utility. Now, the people aren't paying for that, but we have to, but then we earn a rate of return back on that over the next, several years.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Okay.
we're just trying to provide service and at the end of the day, keep the rates from skyrocketing, but they're gonna go up even more down the road.
What actually goes into their rates each year for that $18,750 expenditure is $2,951. That's what's going into their rates every year.
Yep.
And that's to cover the rate of return on his investment and the depreciation expense on that investment.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, my last comment is the executive summary from Mr. Chuck Howard. It's a very good summary, and there's two things that I'd like to point out in this. One is his approach to this, and I think it's very significant to the county to understand what Mr. Howard has done, and we might consider this. I'll read some of this, but not the whole report here, is that I decided to complete my analysis on the weekend of January 13th, 2024. Upon reviewing the exhibits and schedule, I found them to be consistent with current cost utility industry. Rather than populating a matching workbook with the same 2-year data, I tested the workbook by doing math of the formulas with a calculator, letting the links populate themselves. This eliminated any corruption of data within my workbook. I had reviewed the plant and utility records the day the customer took the meeting, asking homeowners for service levels. Looking at the pro forma data, I saw that the utility was trying to improve cost and efficiencies by contracting more of the work being done, and recommend the authority accept the data as consistent with past annual reports and rate cases. I also recommend that the authority be aware that the wastewater treatment plant permit expires in 2027. And this is important, which time the DEP, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, will require compliance with BMAP wastewater effluent limits. So there's a heads up on that as well, and I hope that you've taken that into consideration. John, please.
Yeah, they're going to, when we go up for renewal for our permit, those B maps is what we're calling base maps. They're gonna require us to comply with a certain level of nitrates that we put back into the groundwater for the sewer plant. When they do that, there's gonna be a very large amount of money being spent just for a test year. We're probably looking at $15,000 or $20,000 on a test year to see what the plant is producing in nitrates now. And then after the test year, then we got to re-engineer and design. We may have to add aeration tanks. I mean, this thing can go, who knows where it's going to go, but it is coming, and it will be something that we're going to have to address. We can't just say no. They're going to make us comply within a certain amount of time, or they won't renew our permit.
Sure. Mr. Howard?
Yeah, this was done in the past with other new effluent limitations. And in the new permit, it will give a compliance schedule. And they'll actually schedule out for you, saying you comply with this by a certain date, you'll comply with this by a certain date. And that is a compliance schedule that DEP will give to them. So basically, he's got 3 years to look at it, and then he's got a schedule given him to meet those new limitations. So I just wanted the authority to be aware, and he's already aware and he's looking at it. But I just wanted to bring this up because not only does he have to meet it, the Citrus County Utilities has to meet it. Every other agency that has a wastewater treatment plant has to meet those new limitations. And they've said, so as your permit expires, those are going to be put into the new permit along with a compliance schedule that you will have to meet.
I was associated with a denitrification process in Hawaii, in Lahaina, where the fire was. They had to invest $50 million for denitrification of wastewater.
Yeah,
It's huge.
nobody knows what the costs are gonna be, at the end of the day. We're lucky we had a 10-year permit. I'm surprised they didn't ding me when I did my 5-year review. I was expecting fully, and I said something to Chuck and Gary both. I said, they're liable to ding us. They haven't. That's been 2 years. So I'm assuming they're gonna wait till we have to renew before they do that. But it could be very expensive at the end of the day, you know, and I hate to see it happen, but it's not something that I can control. I mean, we have to do what
No,
we gotta
but
do.
Do you know why, though? Does everyone here know why we're looking at nitrogen in a wastewater treatment plant, the effluent? Because it's going in the ground, right? Well,
Mhm.
guess where it goes?
The aquifer,
In the aquifer.
Yep.
And guess where the aquifer flows to?
the rivers.
The rivers. And
Yeah.
guess what's happening in rivers today? Homosassa, Chattawiska,
Yep.
Crystal River. Tremendous algae blooms.
Yeah.
And it's
It's real.
killing the grass.
It's real, but
It's real.
we have to deal with it, and, you know, and at the end of the day, the ratepayer pays, and, you know, we got 90 people out there in Terrawood, and the costs are just exorbitant. If we had 500 or 600 people, we could separate those costs out, but we don't. I mean, build-out is 230.
Yeah.
You know, and who knows when that's gonna happen.
So anyway, heads
Anyhow,
up.
don't mean to get off target, but that's coming
That's
too.
fine. No, I brought you there, so.
That's why I put it in there. I wanted the authority to be aware, should this come up later on, it's not gonna catch you by surprise.
No. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Howard, you have any other comments or on your report before we bring this to a vote?
No, I tried to be as explicit as I could, and I think, you know, everything I feel is in there. So really, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions from the board? Comments?
No.
Okay, I'd like to ask for someone to submit a motion to accept item D1, assisting for final order 24-03.
I will make that motion.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second?
Okay, it's moved in second. Any final questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Did you do public input yet?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, I missed it. Thank you, Denise. Does the public have any final comments or questions regarding this motion on the floor? Okay, no comments? All right, so the motion is on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved to carries. I'm going to diverge here for a second and tell you a realization that came to me at the last BOCC meeting, and that it has to do with the importance of legal as part of this proceedings. Because everything we do here, we really should be consistent and organized and in a legal fashion. And sometimes I go off the track, but it's very important that we do that, because if we do not and we don't follow certain protocol, then we could be liable for a lawsuit or part of a lawsuit because protocol was not properly followed. So it is important in my mind of all of us to follow protocol. And sometimes it's irritating, including myself, but I do have to have respect for it, and I think we all do. Okay, we're going to go to item E, and that's the outstanding authorities list. And the list is also submitted, and the request is to remove item number 1, and that's a two-part item, I believe. So the portion they want to remove is the deadline is 1/31/24, deadline for taking applications. Is that the only portion we're removing on this?
Yes.
Okay. So we need a motion to remove that item.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments from the board? No? Okay, all in favor?
I have just a question. When does that go before the BOCC?
I think that's the second part. 220, is that
Two,
correct?
220, correct.
220.
Okay,
That's the,
sorry.
that's our timeline.
We might move it because the deadline for the 220 already passed, and I still haven't have a response from one of the applicant.
Okay.
So we'll be moving it for March, and I'll put that one on the list.
That'd be fine, okay. But right now, we're just gonna remove the very first item, 13120. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we have upcoming meetings. This is item F. I'm just going to read through this real fast, just for everyone's comment. Next regular meeting is Monday, March 4th. After that is June 3rd. After that is September 2nd. And then there's a reorganization meeting on November 4th. And then finally, for the year, a meeting on December 2nd. Can I have a motion to accept this?
Actually, I want to say a question. Usually the first Monday in September is Labor Day. Is that a correct date?
That is Labor Day.
Yeah.
That is Labor Day.
Yeah, we got-
That's my fault, sir.
we'll correct
That's
that.
September 9. I forgot to erase it.
December 9?
September 9.
September
The
9?
following Monday. I'm sorry.
Okay. To make a correction. Any other question or comments about this from the board? Can I have a motion to accept the upcoming meetings, items F1 with a correction to September 9th?
Make the motion.
Second.
Second? Motion second. Any discussion from the public about the meetings? None? Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Motion carried. I thank everyone for coming and attending this short meeting. I also thank Terrawood for their patience with us. And finally, I'd like to say one final thing, in that I believe that everyone on the board and the staff has exhibited a sense of urgency. And I don't think this is going to happen a lot, but I do believe that Terrawood appreciated it, and I think our citizens deserve our sense of urgency. John, you wanted to say one last thing.
Yeah.
We've got time.
I just wanted to say thank you, Cecilia, Chuck, the board for meeting, Ms. Lynn, Mr. Howard, for taking time to come here and help us with this. I know it was short notice, but it's really appreciated. And we just thank you very much. We do have some people from Terrawood here, so you guys know that they're here, and they support what we're doing. We try and keep the communication open with them so they know. But you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, meeting adjourned.